So, it's been a very interesting 12 hours here. Apparently, when I last left off, I was watching the news, and apparently, John Kramer's body was not in the casket. No, John Kramer's body was not in the casket. The cops still won't ID whose body it was in the casket, but we did confirm that it wasn't in fact John Kramer's body in that casket. So I've been on the news trying to figure things out lately and watching carefully, and according to the news right here, we have the identity of one body that was found on Stolberg Avenue over the bridge. It belongs to a man named Malcolm Neal. And not much surprise here. All is known that he was arrested in trouble for gambling debt issues, which I'm not going to get into, which seems like the right kind of guy that John Kramer would go after. Yeah. But the question is he alive? And I wish I could just sit here and say that, no, he's dead. But here's another piece of news that comes to mind. They found DNA evidence. Yeah, DNA evidence that belongs to John Kramer. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, he's alive. He's alive. Oh, in the last video, I said I can't go through this again. And I mean that. You see, when I was a kid, I didn't have a whole lot of friends. I had acquaintances through high school and stuff like that. I'm not going to tell you my whole life story because, that's not what you tend to listen to in these videos right here that I'm making. But when I was 16 years old, I ride to school with my mom, who was a teacher. That's my school. She taught elementary while I was in high school. So I caught a ride with her, and then instead of going to the cafeteria, like, how you do, how you go to high school in the mornings, you go in, you go to the cafeteria, you visit with your friends. I didn't do that when I was a kid. Instead, the first thing I did was, I go into there, she gets to work about 7 o'clock in the morning, that leaves me about 30 minutes to go in her classroom, and I would get on her computer. Every morning I would get on her computer, and, I just goof around, go on interests, whether it be, TV shows, wrestling, baseball, sporting events, whatever I could find on the school's computer. But there was one website that every now and then, while this was going on, that I would kind of go to. It's called Jigsaw Rules. It's called jigsawrules.com. And you're thinking, well, that's easy. I can go find it right now. But it's a website that, it's kind of devoted to Jigsaw. And there's two main parts of that website. Number one is, which is what I went into, was its philosophies. Getting to know John Kramer, who he is, where he came from, his beliefs, why people are being tested, why does he do what he does. And then the other part of the website is devoted to his work. And when I mean work, I mean his death traps. And for the amount of times I'm in there, I glanced on a few things, and there are a lot of crazy, sick individuals out there who get kicks on watching people die or get the body, mutilated and stuff like that. I never got into it. And so during this whole time, I would go on that website using the school's website. There was a day where I got in big trouble and I ended up losing internet privileges. It's amazing my mom didn't get as much trouble as she did. But yeah, so that eventually got kicked off. But once I was able to go home, I was able to go on the website, and what I would do is I would go there and I would find and look up ideas, and there'd be message boards. There'd be usernames such as, Vince360, Night of the Rebel Realms, D. Bowsman. Great people that talk, interact with, and people that contribute their own ideas and all kinds of good stuff they have on there. And so there's one username on there. His name's Mark. Good guy. Good guy. And he would be one of the admins of that website. And he would be in charge of, making sure it was well hidden, so we could just do what we do, and we could just talk and relate and go on to each website and go on each variables, and we could just talk, just have, interactions. In a way, I felt like, I found camaraderie. I found, friends that, people I could talk to, people I could relate with. But there was one day, and I'll never forget this. During the times of the Jigsaw murders, there was one girl, and I'll never forget this, who was in my mother's class. She was 8 years old at the time, and my mom taught 2nd grade. And we find out that her parents were killed. They were killed in the Jigsaw attacks. And I'm on there one day, on that website, just sitting there, and all of a sudden, my mom comes in and she's in tears. Like, literally, my mother was crying. And I ask, Mom, why are you crying? And she tells me that one of her students' parents were killed and were murdered by John Kramer. Which, I'm watching the website, that's something that John Kramer wouldn't do. But the girl came in, she was in tears, and she would gather all her things from her office and from her desk. And that was the last that I saw her. So, I'm sorry. But my mom, before she left, my mom pulled her off in the hallway, and I snuck out the door, just took a little peek and see how she was doing. And she looked at her and she just told her, I'm so sorry that you have to go through this. If there's anything that you need, she knows where to find her. Never seen that girl again. Never seen her from her. Got her name. Never heard from her again. Maybe if we see what's all's been going on lately, all the lives that have been affected by one way or the other by John Kramer, it gets to you. So when I try to go back on this website, jigsawrules.com today, just to see, who all's there, it's been shut down. So if you try to go type in jigsawrules.com, this is what you would see. This is what you would see. You no longer have access to that website. And I got my phone aside here, and I've been trying to call my buddy Mark, who I mentioned a while ago is one of the moderators of that website. And if the cops think that John Kramer is back alive 10 years later, causing this again, then that just shows that they are incompetent. The police think that he is alive. Unreal. So, if the cops tend to think that John Kramer is alive, and they're not willing to do whatever it takes to find who dug up his body, and obviously replaced his body with this new guy that we see on the news right here, if they're not going to do anything to stop and figure this out, then I have no choice. I'm going to figure this out myself.
Hello, please leave a message after the tone.
Hey Mark, Jacob Walton, or would you prefer user Saw Rules 8? I know you've been watching the news, and I know that you understand what all's going on right now. Your website's crashed. There's no way of logging in right now. You need to call me. I prefer Skype session. Check your email. Get back to me when you get this message. The games have just begun.